Life Stories of American Presidents. Presents the story of Grover Cleveland, 1837 to 1908. Greedy hands were looting the nation's wealth. Everywhere, men were losing faith in good government. Who could be trusted to guide the country toward the great future that lay ahead? Americans picked Grover Cleveland. Born in Caldwell, New Jersey in 1837, young Cleveland was raised in Fayetteville, New York. He was a fun-loving youngster from the start. Christened Stephen Grover, the boy prefers to use his middle name. He liked fishing. But central New York was still wild country, and young Grover often has to leave his fishing in a hurry. Though just a boy, he often travels to Buffalo on his own to visit relatives there. Once, he foolishly spends his travel money and has to work his way back home along the Erie Canal. And when you're done fetching water, you can go feed the horses. Yes, sir. When the family moves to Clinton, New York, Grover's father earns a meager salary. With 9 children to support, he needs help. And Grover, though only 15, is ready to lend a hand. Dad, I wrote to Mr. McVicker in Fayetteville. He offered me a job as a clerk. It pays $50 a year, plus room and board. I wanted you to get an education, Grover, but... In the general store, he worked from dawn to dusk, but he still finds time to study, and even organizes a debating society. When his father dies, young Grover takes a job with his brother in an institute for the blind. I thought life was treating us badly, but compared to them, we're the luckiest fellows in the world. At 18, young Grover Cleveland decides to go to Ohio. On his way, he stops off near Buffalo to visit his uncle, Lewis Allen. But why go to Ohio, boy? I'll help you find a job right here. I need more than just a job, sir. I was hoping to study for the law. All right, then. I know several lawyers in town. I'll speak to them about placing you. Meanwhile, you can live here and help me run my cattle breeding business. Thank you, sir. I'll try to earn my keep. Grover gets a job as a law clerk and... Hold on. All you gave me was a desk and a law book. Aren't you going to explain anything? If you have any brains, son, you'll find the answers for yourself. Fortunately, Grover takes to the law like a duck to water. At 22, he is admitted to the bar, and 3 years later, he's the best district attorney this country's ever had. Mark my words, this boy Cleveland will go far. When the Civil War begins, Grover and his brothers draw straws to see which of them will serve. You lose, Grover. We can't all volunteer. Well, I suppose that's the way it'll have to be. Someone has to stay home to support Mom and the girls. Though a Democrat, Cleveland is a strong Lincoln supporter. And when the first casualties come home, I tell you, Lincoln is a monster. No good can come of this war. You're wrong. The president is a great and good man, and the Union must be preserved at all costs. After the war, Cleveland becomes sheriff of Erie County. Then, in 1881, congratulations, Mr. Cleveland. You'll be the best mayor Buffalo ever had. Buffalo was a tough, brawling waterfront city. Dirty and disease-ridden. Grasping, greedy politicians had kept it that way. But now Buffalo has a fighting mayor. This canal is nothing but a cesspool. Buffalo must build a decent sewer system at once. This well is contaminated. Have it sealed up by tonight. Have this dairy cleaned up at once. Remember, you're supplying milk to the children of Buffalo. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll take care of it right away. Cleveland rises rapidly. In 1882, he is elected governor of New York. His door is open to everyone. We must do something about these crowds, Governor. Your office might as well be on the front lawn. These people do not disturb me. I have nothing to hide. To a country sickened by political scandals, Cleveland is like a breath of fresh air. Another fraud in the Navy Department. Isn't there one honest man left in government? I know of one, Cleveland. He must be honest. He's hated by every political hack in New York. The reform spirit helps to nominate Cleveland for the presidency in 1884. And when tough politicians come to bargain for votes, I'd rather lose this election than resort to crooked politics. Now get out of here. The campaign is long and bitter, but Cleveland is a man of honor, and when offered papers that would besmirch the private life of his opponent, Cleveland buys the evidence. Then, these papers must be burned. The other side can have a monopoly on all the dirt in this campaign. Cleveland is elected in a close vote. One of his first tasks is modernizing our outdated Navy. Most of our vessels still have wooden hulls and cast iron cannon. That's outrageous. I'm asking Congress for a modern fleet equipped with steel rifles and torpedo tubes. Meanwhile, serious trouble threatens in the West. Cattle barons are fencing in public lands. Jeb, file a homestead claim on that water hole. When it's yours, sell it to me, understand? I get it, boss. Railroads make fortunes selling land they gain dishonestly. Timber thieves hack valuable government forests to the ground. Back in Washington, an angry president calls a halt to the plundering. I want every foot of private fence that's on public lands to be torn down, and those land and timber thieves must be stopped. And when land grabbers try to take over an Indian reservation, this land belongs to the Indians. Clear off and stay off. Blast that do-gooder, Cleveland. Meanwhile, another problem boils up in booming silver mines out west. I hear your mine is working on 3 shifts. In heaven's name, who buys all that silver? The government. We pushed through a law a while back that says the Treasury has to buy $2 million worth every month. In Washington, Cleveland reads the handwriting on the wall. We're paying out millions in gold for all this silver. Soon there will be no gold left to pay the government's debts. I must demand that Congress repeal the Silver Purchase Act before the Treasury goes bankrupt. But in the midst of his heavy tasks, Cleveland finds time to get married to pretty Frances Folsom, the first presidential wedding ever held in the White House. After a short honeymoon, the president is back at work again. These private pension bills are mostly outright frauds. There's a man who claims a pension because he was injured while riding to enlist during the Civil War. I'll check each pension bill myself and veto the ones that don't hold up. Grover Cleveland is determined to give America an honest administration, no matter what the cost. Daily Sentinel. Cleveland offers return of captured Confederate flags. Union veterans protest. Weekly News. Manufacturers attack Cleveland's plan for tariff reduction. Monthly World. President turns down private pension bills. But Cleveland has stepped on too many toes, and a badly organized campaign cost him the presidency in the 1888 elections. Harrison was elected, but you got more popular votes. At least I was beaten while fighting for honest principles, and I'm sure my reforms will win in the end. Cleveland looked forward to retiring, but within 3 years, his friends seek him out once more. This new law forces the government to buy more silver than ever. The country is heading toward a crisis. Mr. Cleveland, America needs you in the presidency again. All right, you've convinced me. I'll run again. In 1892, Cleveland runs for another term and is elected. He won in a landslide. That makes him the only president to be re-elected after being out of office for 4 years. But 1 month after the inaugural comes the predicted crisis. Crisis on Wall Street. Stock prices tumble. Hundreds of firms bankrupt. Convinced that the silver laws are to blame, Cleveland calls an emergency session of Congress. But suddenly, Mr. President, I must be frank, you have a growth in your upper jaw. Unless we operate, your life may be in danger. I understand, Doctor, but in heaven's name, keep this quiet. If this news gets out, the country will be panicked. And a few days later, aboard a yacht in New York Harbor. The country knows nothing of the operation, and soon, Cleveland recovers completely. I've been away from this desk long enough. Now to get back to work. Mr. President, you'll have to act fast. Banks are closing everywhere. People are hoarding any kind of hard money. Gold is disappearing from the market. The country plunges into a depression. Cotton at 6 cents a pound and wheat at 35 cents a bushel. I'll dump my grain in the street before I sell at those prices. Me too. We're with you. 3 million men have no jobs. Angry workers go out on strike. In 1894, a strike stops railroad traffic around Chicago. When the news reaches Cleveland, Mr. President, there's a lot to be said for those railroad workers, but that strike is tying up the mail. If it takes the entire Army and Navy to deliver a postcard to Chicago, that postcard must be delivered. And although many argued Cleveland's action, the mails went through. With the country starving for gold, Cleveland is forced to turn to a group of financiers. Then it is agreed, Mr. President, our syndicate will hand over $65 million in gold in return for this new issue of Treasury bonds. Cleveland's bold move saves the Treasury, but his action is met with a storm of abuse. Cleveland has sold America out to the bankers. He's loading the taxpayer with new debts every week. What we need is free coinage of silver. Down with the money bags. Free coinage of silver. Cleveland's action cost him the support of his party for the campaign of 1896. The Democrats nominate a free silver champion. Bryan for president! But Bryan is defeated by William McKinley, and as Cleveland leaves the White House, Mr. President, permit me to offer some parting advice. That revolution in Cuba could land us in a war with Spain unless we are careful. I'll remember that, sir, and try my best to keep the peace. Cleveland spent his last years at Princeton, surrounded by his family and friends. When Grover Cleveland died in June 1908, his last words were, "I have tried so hard to do right."